Hey, it's Ariel Anderson coaching you into midlife fertility, pregnancy over 40. And today we are talking about um, pregnancy and loss and ritual, marking time. Now, if you're new here, welcome and definitely subscribe because there's lots of good things coming, both videos and more lives on Fridays at 10. If you are returning, then welcome back into the circle. It's great to be here and to be able to be available to you and to continue the work and ripple it out. So I'm just going to dive right in. I guess the first question I would have for you sitting here with me, either right now or on the replay, would be you know, looking at in your own history or in your culture around how people are marking time. How have you marked time, or what rituals do you both enjoy or have in your particular circle? So just taking a moment to think about that. Like, what does that even mean? Marking time or ritual. So I would say something along these lines of how people in your community, in your circle, in your family, in your culture, how do they actually work with grieving and death and loss in general? Now, every culture is different, and every subculture inside of the subculture, you know, has another reality inside of that. We have here in the United States, depending on your family and your religion or cultural background, there are different ways in which people celebrate or grieve or mark time with loss. It might be a funeral, or my family is Irish, part of my family, I should say, and we have wakes as well, which is a celebration of life. I'm sure there are so many. I know that there's the Jewish tradition and there's the African tradition and there's so many traditions around the world. And honestly, I would love to gather them all up and create things with that. I love that sort of a culmination of things that sing to you. I think that even when you're born into a culture, uh, it may or may not fit you in the way that it's done. Maybe it feels like too much or not enough. And that's really up to you. So today I wanted to share with you a story around loss and ritual. Before I fully dive into that, I realized last week was a little intense. I'm going to pull back just a tiny bit because I realized for me personally, uh, this is such a public forum. And as I've said, a few of you have asked for, and I will be creating something maybe in November, January, somewhere in there. There will be something happening for sure, November something, because I realized last week in sharing such a personal story in such a deep way, it felt so. I mean, maybe it's the introvert in me. It felt so like I felt really exposed, like I was standing in an auditorium full of some familiar faces and some unknown faces out there, telling a very private story. And I wanted to do that. It was an experiment to see how I felt around it. I also imagine you sitting here with me, and I see how brave you are and how you share your story. Sometimes here in the chat, and wanted to work with that myself. To really be personal, because I know that we help one another when we do that. And I'm still finding the place. I just thought I'd mention that as I'm going into my next story, because we each have to have our personal comfort zone. And I do realize it's like the difference between talking with 50 people or talking with 20 people or talking with 500 people. It's a very different feeling. And so I'm just experimenting with that. So today I thought I would, the pregnancy path requires such a depth of being willing to look at yourself. And, there's waves, where you have loss often, or the loss of not having a loss, even, not even getting pregnant, and how strong that is, and all the story that goes through our minds or your mind. And what I want to encourage you is both celebrations and loss need a marking of time, a ritual, something to acknowledge it, put energy there, work with it in whatever way is comfortable for you, and then move through it. And what I find happens, and me too, is there are those moments where it's just not convenient, or it's too much, or uh, it's an awkward timing. As I didn't really get into last time, but I had a loss, or a couple of losses, when my stepson was around. And it was such an emotional and awkward blending of families that I didn't want to bring that into the story. I realized that it made things a little confusing as to what emotions were in the air and what was going on. I think you just have to find, what is right for your family and learn from it. So this is one of those moments where I'm just looking at, when you have a loss, make a space for it. Now, maybe it happens at work, or it happens when you're on your way to pick up your kids from school. If it's an early one, then it's easier to work with that. If it's a later one, of course, uh, uh, you know, then you have to address it. You can't you can't just be like, okay, I'm going to pick my kids up from school. Well, maybe you can. There's all possibilities depending on where you are on your road and your road through pain. Uh, However, at some point, making a space, carving out a space, and I encourage you, if you have a partner, to do something with them. But that's next week. We're going to be talking more about that. But right now, we're talking about you, because this is for you. I'm here for you, because too often this experience of loss, especially pregnancy loss, becomes a silent loss. And then it internalizes, and that's not good for your health and your well-being ultimately. Sometimes that's necessary for a period, but I encourage you to put energy somewhere, and that's why I'm talking about this. So I was reflecting, because I was thinking what I wanted to talk about this week, and I found something. Let's see, maybe I'll just pull it out and show you. This is not exactly related, but I pulled something out. I have this box that was for one of my card decks. And I had been looking for some important things, which turns out they were in here. I guess I thought this was a really good hiding place. And I found this set of beads, which is actually a necklace. Just thought I'd mention that. Which then made me think of what I had actually done for my losses. Now, this one in particular was related to, I picked a bead from this incredible store. They're all stones, minerals, healing stones. And each bead was for each treatment I had when I had cancer as a young girl. It was early. I was lucky, but it was a very uncomfortable treatment, and it was all natural, and there was a lot of other stuff around that. That's a conversation for another day, but it's one more of those stories of someone said I couldn't do it a certain way and naturally, and I said, well, I'm going to. And these beads were marking time and healing and energy that was happening in that moment. And so it sparked this, okay, let's talk about this. So each loss that I had, some of them were in different countries, now that I think about it, because we traveled a lot. And I realized that this marking of time, this putting the energy of that story into something, was so incredibly important. And for some reason, what came was bells. I'm not even a bell person. Bells. Uh, Now I'm a bell person, but I had my first loss, as I mentioned last week in the story. I had my first loss in an Eastern country. And interestingly enough, and it wasn't really conscious, I ended up choosing two bells, because when we would take these long paths up the hot mountains going to the different temples, there would sometimes be, sort of slightly tucked away sometimes, uh, a little area, sometimes very simple, with some bells, either one bell or multiple bells. And the idea was to ring them as I remember. And I might not be getting this perfectly right. You're welcome to put something in the comments if you know it better, or maybe it's different in different countries. But when you ring the bells, it's a remembering, and it's a moment of being conscious of that remembering, and that had a strong effect. I really liked doing that ringing of the bells when I would go to the temples or be at the temples or on the way to the temples. And I thought, we're talking about a path to pregnancy, through pregnancy. And I thought, oh, this makes sense. How did I not think of that before? So I each loss, I got a different bell, sometimes from different places, sometimes just from a store that had something beautiful. And I strung them up and I hung them in our bedroom, between where the future baby room was going to be, which was also my meditation room at the time, and which I didn't use that much. Uh, it just looked beautiful, and I would ring it every once in a while, because there would be moments where it was just the grief would come up, especially on the path before the baby happened, and there was something in that, the sound of the bells, choosing sounds that hit me in a nice way. Just like certain drums, you like the sound, and others, you're, "Ooh," really being aware of that. And it worked with my healing. It was sound, it was touch, it was remembering, it was honoring an experience, honoring a loss, honoring a possible life, whatever it is you believe in as far as that piece. But there was definitely a spirit connected in the realm, and I of me and us, and that's just so valuable. And so I encourage you. I don't know what your thing might be, but that's one piece. Another piece was that every time I had a loss, I would allow myself to cry, which didn't happen all the time. But there was the crying, there was massage, there was some having some beautiful scents, there was, you know, the lighting of a candle, you know, to remember the light, that the light was going to come back, the hope was coming back, and that it wasn't gone, that just because there was a loss didn't mean, I was broken or my body didn't know how to work. It was just, there was something, that was another part of the story. And when I was ready, I would look at what that was. So I just wanted to go into that a little bit today, because it's really easy in a lot of our societies, especially with this. It's not like a life, long life, and then a death, and that ritual that we have in some cultures, right? Uh, it feels like failure. It feels like there's so many pieces to the story. It's something you don't necessarily want to talk about or go into the whys or the questions, whatever might come up. So it becomes silent, and it's very important on your path. And next week we're going to dive into the importance of you know also connecting in with your partner inside of this, and how it affects conception. But I do know that having an acknowledgement of the losses is incredibly powerful, and opening to whatever that's supposed to mean for you. Does that make sense? Um, I don't know if this is interesting. Definitely like and let me know that this is hitting home for you in some way. I'm wondering, have you marked time? Have you done any kind of ritual um, that helped you or felt good or right for you? I would love to hear it in the comments if you're interested in sharing that, either now or on the replay. Uh, or if you have any other questions, maybe I'll just take a moment to take a breath with you, and to make space and honor your own losses. And it also remembering that if it was just weeks or months, it's still your loss. You have a right to feel whatever you feel for this loss. It's a loss. Sometimes you feel that pregnancy really early on. That counts. There's no line of where it counts more or less. So I just want to acknowledge that. So let's just take a moment. If you're in a safe place that you can put your feet down, or I'm sitting cross legged, and kind of let your shoulders relax a little bit. And if it's safe for you to do so, to close your eyes and take a deep breath with me. And exhaling just for a moment. Allow yourself this small moment. Maybe it's the beginning, or maybe it's just a short moment of opening to whatever your heart and your body needs to acknowledge your own loss of time, loss of pregnancy, loss of not getting pregnant. Maybe there are other losses that get twirled in with that: loss of work, loss of friendship. Sometimes inside this process, these things happen because the grief is strong. And just honor your path and these spirits or lives that were making their way to you. And your journey is not over. This is just the beginning. And no matter how long you've been on this path, I am here to move this faster and in a way that works for you, that you don't need to suffer anymore. Yet each of these losses are a part of you and an important part of you in your story, not to be forgotten, but remembered. And one more deep breath. And exhale. And as you open your eyes, do one last deep breath in and out. And out. And thank you for being here. And if you have any questions about today, or any other questions around midlife pregnancy and fertility, I'm happy to answer them. I work with women's fertility over 40, 45, 50, some earlier, depending on what is older for you and your path or your struggle or your transformation. And I am happy that you're here. I'll wait a little bit. And meanwhile, looking out at the blue sky and the shimmer in the leaves of light, and looking at fall and how it's a reminder of letting go, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes. While you know, there's a lot of pregnancy happening in the world, but over 40, there's a lot of assumption. Thank you, Lindy. Thank you for being there for over 40s. Well, there's so many assumptions and so much stress around being on the path of pregnancy over 40. It's maddening for me, the messages that are out there. So I'm just happy to be a message to say it's possible. Just because you're over 40 does not mean you don't deserve an amazing pregnancy. You do. And you can have an amazing pregnancy without lots of problems. You can have a fun, body feeling good pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy, and a healthy baby. And there's a lot of story. Over 40, it's not just about the body. There's so much inside of your beautiful, complicated story that that's a big piece of what muddles things up, more than the age of your body. I can tell you that right now. Lindy, it becomes lonely because the world writes you off. It's true. Yes. Oh my God, I literally got a chill from my knees up through my neck when you wrote that. It's true. They really write you off. It's in so many levels. It's not even just the pregnancy. It's also as a person. It's like, oh, you're in midlife. That means this. That means this is happening. You're all dried up. There's so many horrible assumptions out there that go along with being over 40. And I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a really great series out on Netflix called The Verge, which was that Julia Delphi did. And wow, it is spot on. Now it's about motherhood. And so maybe if you're not a mother, maybe that's uncomfortable to look at, but it's about a lot of the issues of being over 40 and the realities of that. Um, so just putting that out there. But yeah, the loneliness it's palpable. It's you go into a doctor's office or you call them even, and the questions that they ask you it's just cringeworthy. It's just you're a problem. You're a problem immediately. As soon as they see the number or they see the date of your birth, you are a problem to solve or to manage rather than, oh, fantastic, you're trying to have a baby. It's like, are you sure? Maybe we should get you on steroids and hormones. Maybe you should just try the IVF. Maybe you should just try, and there's all these other things except the one thing that I want to hear them say to you, which is, fantastic. If you're pulled to have a baby, let's ask some questions. Oh, wow, you're being aware of what's in your environment. And oh, you're, you're aware of your diet a bit more or whatever it is, that at any age you want to be doing, mind you. You want to be eating well and keeping the stress back and doing all these things. But instead of encouraging you, you get this lecture sometimes or a list of all the things that you may not want to do. And I just want to tell you something. If you haven't seen this in other videos, I want to say it right now, especially because you're bringing this up, Lindy. Uh, you actually have a higher chance. I don't remember the exact time, if it's 40, 42. You have a higher chance of getting pregnant naturally than you do with a lot of the artificial, invasive, stressful realities that the doctors are offering you. Now, some integrated doctors will mix things together, and it's all, of course, it's according to your story. And maybe you're doing it alone or you're, LGBTQ couple. So that's, a part of your story. However, if there is the option to biologically do it, I really encourage that. And the loneliness piece, I have to say, that is a big reason why I started doing the lives and why I want to. You guys keep asking, and I'm going to create a community because I feel you need a place to speak your truth without judgment. And I want to be there for you in that way. And it's only kind of one sided here. So we'll see. Um, Lindy, I haven't seen it, but I will sure watch it. Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind the whole family aspect to it, it's just very real. It's set in California, so maybe I can relate a bit, but it's just it's the ugliness and the beauty of being over 40 and relationships and partnership. And yes, it's family, but it's I don't know. I moved to more unconventional methods, natural herbs. Yeah, herbs. The thing I like, and I don't know, there's one video I put up, I think IVF versus natural, where I just kind of bounce into it a little bit. Uh, the thing I'm not completely against this sort of invasive external methods or where they're pumping up your hormones and getting the eggs moving and helping out, but I feel that my experience of my clients and friends who have done this is that it's really really hard on the relationship. If you have a relationship and a partnership, it's hard on you and your emotions, which are already going through it just naturally through the process. And on top of it, it's like coming at you versus herbs and acupuncture, even massage. There's energy work. There's so many things that you can do. That the difference is they're supporting your body, which already knows what to do. It's supporting your body in the way that it needs for you to conceive, for you to have a great pregnancy, for you to give birth in the best way possible for your body, right? And I think that's the difference. It's like what ultimately, with some bit of consciousness, what we hope to do for our children. It's to support their path versus deciding what they're going to do according to you or your grandparents or your parents. That would be the ultimate, the best version of things. That's how I feel about this as well, is those considering here considered to be unconventional is quite the norm in a lot of other countries. I appreciate any doctor who will combine, which is why I like integrative medicine so much, because it's, you've got an MD who understands and appreciates the Western pieces that can be helpful. And then you've got, the other piece, which is opening to what you need for you. And personally, my experience has been that's the best way because you're getting more information. When is more information not a good thing? And you just try it for yourself. Now, the thing is with natural, there's more time investment, just like drugs versus herbs. Something can have a reaction like this. It seems like it's doing something quickly. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's more of a facelift and it's not really solving the problem, but the symptoms. That's where you have to be careful. And herbs take longer. Herbs, and it depends on the quality of your herbs and who's getting them, giving them to you. Ultimately, liquid herbs are going to be much easier to get into your system versus teas. But tea, or some teas, if you really steep them a long time, that's not true. Tea is liquid. I meant to say pills. Pills, depending on how they're made, take a little bit longer. You have to do more of it. Acupuncture as well, it takes longer. My fibroids got smaller through acupuncture, but it took time and it takes energy investment and it's a little different. And sometimes shortcut is what feels better. And it's all about you and your feeling. Lindy, I agree 100%. It was strenuous on my relationship, hence I stopped. It felt like pressure and I was becoming anxious and depressed. I'm not surprised. It's a really horrific path. It's really hard. It's it doesn't make it fun. You want pregnancy to be fun, on the way there to be fun. And I think it's also another episode coming up. Actually, I just focused on loss this month, but that is actually the week 3 of this month. Is we're looking at the loss of the grieving of the process, right? I mean, it's not fun anymore when you've had losses and you're going through this. So thank you so much, Lindy, for bringing that up and stepping in today. I really, really appreciate you sharing pieces of your story. For you out there who are here on the replay or silently in the circle, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much, and I look forward to next week. If you aren't subscribed, please jump in and subscribe. And like it so other people can find the video. I'm going to say goodbye unless there's any other questions. And we appreciate you, sending you love from South Africa. Oh my gosh, I love that. Oh, I just love it when I get to feel where you are in the world. And thank you for staying up because I'm sure it's late. I have to look at the timing. I'm trying to think South Africa. It must be late. Thank you for being here. Next week is going to be partnership, loss, and conceiving, and it's a good one. You're welcome to bring your partner if that makes sense. Probably we should do that in a more of a live setting, and we will do that. Like I said, November, January. I want to meet you. I want to see your faces. I want to see your face. Be great. So thank you again, and have a beautifully inspiring, open, ritual marking time weekend. And I'll see you next week right here at 10 a.m. Pacific on Friday.